All right, everybody, welcome to Are They Out There? We have a very special guest with us tonight. She is in a location that is, shall we say, strange at the least. So I want to apologize for any weird things that happen with our recording tonight. We've already experienced some glitches even before we started recording, and I think Michelle will kind of explain how weird it is down there. And again, everybody, please email us at aretheyouthere, the number one at Gmail .com. Let us know any stories you want us to look into. If you have stories, tell us. We'll put them on the air. We possibly might invite you on to talk about them. So remember, are they out there? The number one at gmail.com. Stuart, Bobby, thanks for being on again tonight. And Michelle, welcome. I am going to just throw it to you. The floor is yours, and I can't wait to hear what you have to tell us tonight.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Gary. Appreciate that. And Stuart, you guys have gone black. It's really
No
interesting.
way.
I
You're
swear.
frozen. Yeah, I was gonna say you're frozen.
She went dark on
This
mine.
this is
Yeah,
incredible because
like
I see everybody, but it's like
yeah, no, you're frozen. Yeah,
where
like
what we're going to talk about and
I
where
see
Michelle
Bobby. I see
is
like but yeah.
Dude, I think the
is
old software was so much better, man. Like this has had some issues.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. We haven't had issues before, and
Hey,
uh,
I
I think
guarantee you. Like there are some times I guarantee you, like you get put on lists, and I'm like, if they are able to do algorithms and whatnot, like I'm pretty sure like they can make it so that you have shitty connections when like multiple people that they don't want talking.
right.
I believe it.
So, well,
That's
Michelle, go
crazy.
ahead, take it away, and let's see what happens here.
Well,
This could be a very interesting night.
yeah, this is going to be a very interesting
Oh, there
night,
we go.
and
Okay.
and this is not anything I wouldn't say abnormal, but it is abnormal in the world of normal.
Yeah.
But having worked in the area of the Uinta Basin, we do get glitches like this. We find at times our equipment drains the battery, our phones go dead in like within maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Some, the longest I've heard is someone had battery reduced for about 10 minutes and it's fully charged 100%. So, this anomaly that we're talking about right now, we still have some people on some black screen here and trying to work through the technical issues. But it makes it
You
intriguing, doesn't it? It just makes it
Absolutely.
really
you
intriguing.
you were
Well,
gonna laugh.
yeah,
I
and
just
that's
pulled
what.
the cord on my computer because
Uh,
it was telling me I'm at 100% and that I shouldn't leave it plugged in for that long. I unplugged it,
Right.
and within a matter, we've only been on here 3 minutes. I went down to almost zero battery on my laptop.
That's
And this is a
crazy.
brand new laptop. Yeah. And I'm not lying about this either. I happened to look down when you were talking about batteries, and I was like, oh my God, my computer's about to die. So I just had to plug it back in.
That's crazy. That's really
yeah,
crazy. Well, when we're out in the field and we're doing interviews and such, or we're filming and stuff, these kind of anomalies occur. So that takes me to a story because you're saying you want to hear some of the stories. When we were having some major technical, I started to introduce myself. I'm of a three band of nations of Native American tribes. I am half Navajo. The other two tribes are Pawnee. Skidee is my clan, and the Skidee are the wolf people. Ojibwe is the other one. Chippewa and the Dirty Water clan is where I come from. And the Navajo is Kiani. So those are my clans and my tribe. And so we'll just continue to talk as much as we can. If these glitches happen, it just brings some variety to this podcast show.
no,
What?
absolutely. Hey, Michelle. Hey, so I am so intrigued with your background, everything you've done. And everything we've kind of like, kind of been able to talk about what you shared with us. But I guess I want to say, like, what is the craziest thing that you have seen? And we'll just jump right into it. The craziest thing you've ever seen on one of the reservations.
Well, on the reservations, the most craziest thing I have seen is Haley's Comet. I
Oh,
know
really?
that's an astrolog, what I'm saying,
Yeah.
a phenomenon, but it was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen, and the most
Yeah.
unusual thing I've seen is
Because
to
you're out in the middle of nowhere, so there's no lights or anything like that. So you guys have an utter, complete, beautiful, like just a breathtaking look
The
at the stars.
galaxies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you have a night sky and without the lights. But
Yeah,
I when Halley's Comet came and we were traveling as a family to New Mexico, which I'm from originally, it was just the most awe-inspiring event that has ever occurred. I
yeah.
wouldn't say the weirdest thing because how long do we have to wait for Halley's Comet? That was
Oh,
just a
and so
remark.
actually, so wasn't it Mark Twain? Mark Twain was born when Halley's Comet
Yep,
came, and then he
and he
died when Halley
died.
came back again 80 years later, right? Yeah.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah,
It was
Hey, Steve,
remarkable, and it was most celestial, beautiful event that I've ever encountered.
that's cool.
And
how come you ain't never asked me the weirdest thing I've ever seen?
Well,
well,
because
Bobby,
I mean,
what's the weirdest
yeah,
thing you've ever seen?
yeah, Bobby, I know the weirdest
I
thing
wasn't
you've ever.
trying to interrupt. I just like, how come I never get asked stuff like that? Like,
Well, Bobby, because
y'all
we
heard,
talk all the time.
haven't
You
heard a
tell me, yeah,
softball.
yeah, yeah. That's, no, no. She's trust me. She has. I guarantee you the cooler stories of.
How
Well,
do
I
you
mean,
figure?
you, got some, you have some cool
I
stories. That is right.
matched with a girl that was on life support on Tinder a couple years
That
ago. All right,
real.
so
My support on Tinder. She was
uh,
swiping left.
Michelle, please continue.
go ahead. I'm
Please
sorry.
continue.
You gotta have a spice of life, and you guys are
Yeah.
spicy.
All right.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean, I
it's
guess like
great.
really interested in like the
So,
whole thing. So you're the Rangers. Can you explain the Rangers?
well, it's interesting. I haven't disclosed that project yet, but we're
Oh,
working on a
mm,
pre-production.
sorry. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
well, and it's going to come forward sooner than later, but we're
yeah.
working on a pre-production
Okay.
to explore Native American phenomena on reservations.
Oh, so good.
And I happen to have two brethren within the tribe that are very experienced, and we'll get them on the show, and then they can explain some of the stories that they've had and the
Yeah,
experience
That'd
that
be
they
awesome. That'd be way awesome.
rangers for 30 plus
yeah.
years. Yeah,
Love it.
64 if
Love it.
you add total experiences of both of them together.
Love it.
So it's good to be working with these gentlemen, and we're in pre-production right now. So, anyways, so to move on to the Uinta Basin, and you asked a really prevalent question: what is the weirdest thing I've ever seen? I've lived in Utah for I would say 25 plus years, and didn't know that this experience of the energies that are prevalent in the eastern quadrant of Utah existed. So to me, the weirdest thing I have ever seen, and you hate to say this because you think, okay, do people really believe that I saw this?
Mm,
Was I was contacted by an extraterrestrial race.
mm.
That was weird in
Yeah.
itself.
Was that with you? With that? With your friend Dr. Greer, or is it like was that kind of by yourself?
No, that was by myself. When I was on this particular project, as I was speaking about earlier, and I don't think the audit it's going to be on tape, but I was asked to come on and assess this particular property for the best and highest use
Yeah.
um, in the agricultural aspect. And I started having these experiences like right off the bat when I would visit that particular area.
Yeah.
And the first thing I saw, and I'll give you chronology a little bit here. The first thing I saw was a giant blue orb on my
Okay.
birthday, May 2016.
Yeah.
And I thought it was somebody's giant TV in their trailer or their home that they had there. But when it exploded in front of me, I had somebody else with me. They saw the end of the explosion, but this thing I felt had an intelligence to it. That was the first phenomena that I ever was able to encounter when I
Yeah.
first onto this particular property. In
Yeah.
sequential visits, I ended up starting having dealings with energy, and the energy. I was particularly in the ranch house of this particular property, and I felt like I was going somewhere, like something was taking me to another dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hearing voices telling me I was going to be okay. There were two other participants with me, and they were also having, we were caught up in this sort of a vortex within ourselves and our minds, and we all felt like we're dealing with our own stories and our own experiences.
So I
And
got a question when you get before you get past that. So you're
sure,
saying
Bobby.
you felt like it was going to another dimension. So
Mm-hmm.
like kind of picture for me. Are you in bed? You sitting in the living room? Are your eyes closed? Like are we
No, I
daydreaming,
was
or we
fully
stare?
awake
We got
and
the 1,000
conscious.
meter stare. We're looking out into the desert, or
No, no, I was in a somebody's dining room, and then the room started to spin, and then I suddenly my mind was going somewhere. It was like I was there physically, but I could see the other two participants around me, and it looked like we were in a caught up in a tornado vortex.
Mm-hmm.
They were having their own experiences as well, but something energetic or spiritual was keeping us connected. They were getting different messages than I was, and we ended up assisting one another. And one of the participants, a lady, had seen a Native American woman in her regalia standing next to me, and she was protecting me. And I've been told that several times, not just from her point of view. I've been told that people have seen this Native American lady around me when I'm up in the Basin area doing the work that I do up there. So, and then I was hearing interactions from other voices telling me you're going to be okay, and they gave me directives of this is who I am, and we're going to protect you. And it was on sacred Native American lands up in the Uinta Basin that I heard these voices, and I knew that they were Native American in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know,
well, at
and
least you got some backup. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that.
so I felt protected, but there were times I didn't feel protected. There's a hodgepodge of experiences that I could talk to you about, but I'm probably tonight, for the sake of time, going to share some significant ones that I go out and speak out on a platform, as a speaker. And so the one story I want to talk about is one night I took a group of about 11 of us. Some of them had very special gifts of their own, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, etheric, esoteric kind of gifts. And it was a really interesting night. It was the week before Halloween, and of course, it's coming up, the anniversary of this
Mm-hmm.
event occurring. Um, and I just had this feeling there's a particular hill that would light up at times when we would be there, and and this particular night it lit up. And so we grabbed an ATV, a couple of them, and ran to that particular hill. And then one of the gentlemen says, "Hey, I think we need to say a prayer." So as we were putting our hands on the land, we placed them on the mountain. Um, I was wearing night goggles, those goggles with the night vision. I was wearing those. And all of a sudden, this little ghost jumped out of the hill, and we could smell the sulfur.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like happy. And it was kind of a magical night. I've had a few magical nights up in the basin. And
Yeah.
this particular night, this little entity jumps out of the hill and it starts dancing around. So we joined it in the dance. We just kind of went
Yeah.
with it, kind of
Hell
going
yeah!
back and forth, like waving like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Like a little green
So
fairy.
11 of us are all doing that. But what was really interesting, no one bought a phone.
Mm. Oh.
Of the 11 people, no one brought their cell phones.
So
And
I had an experience like that drinking absinthe. Like you saw the little fairy, and we
Have you
just
ever heard
all
of absinthe?
yeah.
oh, really? You had some
Have you heard of absinthe?
apparition
Yeah.
showing
It's supposed
up
to be
and stuff.
hallucinogenic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But so
Okay.
like even like
Yeah,
so
well, we weren't smoking, we weren't drinking.
I
In
know
fact,
so there were no ceremonies that had just proceeded or anything like that. Okay, so
Oh, dude, I
okay.
had
no.
some magical nights.
Okay.
Go ahead though.
No, we
No,
had some prayer. We had prayer. God
yeah,
honest prayer is all we
I
had.
and so like
And
there's been so many. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, Stuart.
Well, there's just been so many times. Like I remember like being way up north in the Yukon, like almost in the Arctic
Mhm.
Circle, and I would just look up at the sky, and you'd be able to see like satellites and whatnot. But I'm like, if there's ever a time, can I please just have an alien encounter? You know what I mean? Like, they come down
Yeah,
at least say something. But I'm just like, I so want that. You know what I mean? Or like at least want that
right.
experience, just something kind of close to it. Because it would almost give me a little bit more like belief and like everything. Like I would prefer them to come down and say, "Hey, how's it going?" But you know what I mean. But just at least before I go, I want to have like that experience or that encounter.
All you gotta do is
So
go to
It's
the
it's
really,
blue.
so it's
you
interesting,
know,
Stuart.
Yep.
it.
We
I
we're
didn't want
talking
these experiences.
You didn't
right.
want
What's that,
them?
Well,
Eric?
we're talking about the UFO thing real quick, right? So my
Yeah.
daughter
Right.
captured a photo last night up at Strawberry Reservoir of this light that is expelling like this green hue and stuff around it.
Mm-hmm.
I downloaded that photo, and I have tried 5 times to put it on here, and it will not go on here.
No.
And when you were speaking about aliens, I don't know if you guys heard it. I heard it. I was checking the mics and stuff. It was like a clicking, but it
No.
wasn't like every time you said alien or you were talking about it, I heard this like guttural,
Man, they using that damn
like
Patriot Act on us.
right.
Yeah.
And it was like, but the minute you stop talking about aliens and then we're talking what the story you just told us, it was quiet,
Yeah.
right? But when you anything you were talking about, Michelle, about the aliens, I kept hearing that clicking sound, and it wasn't like a constant. It was like a small
Yeah.
little conversation or something. Is kind of
Yeah.
what it sounded like. And
Interesting.
I checked your microphone, I checked everything, and we've lost Bobby.
Yeah. Well,
Man,
I
they
see.
on
I
me,
see, Bobby.
dude.
Yeah.
I hadn't
So
paid my
Michelle,
taxes
you
in
were
so many
talking about
years.
like that. You did not want these experiences at all, right? And I
No.
guess like when did you decide to be like you might be in tune or something might be like just kind of different? You know what I mean? Like when were you like, man, like I might have something special going on here.
Okay, so if I could finish that night, it's going to get a little bit
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
more and more interesting, that particular night with the 11 people.
Yeah.
And I tell this story. So as soon as I shared the goggles with other people, they wanted to see it.
Yeah.
And it stayed with us for quite a while. And it was very happy. It was very pleasant. And
Yeah.
people were dancing with it. It was just it was really a magical night. It was fun. We
Yeah.
had a fun time. And
Yeah.
then I was given back the goggles and I put them on and something told me, look up. And there was a huge ship
Yeah.
and there was orbs coming out of it, all kinds of colors like ice cream. The only thing I can compare it to is, that scene in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and they said ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys hear that? Are
Actually,
you
I
hearing
hear it
that?
now. Yeah, I hear this one. When we say
The,
aliens,
Are you
the
guys having
minute
those
you start
ominous things happen?
what's that?
the minute you started speaking to aliens again, did you guys hear the clicking?
Oh no, so Bobby's gone now. I can't see Bobby.
Bobby's
Bobby
frozen.
Bro.
Oh, okay.
Bobby's froze. You started talking about the alien thing again, and I started hearing
Michelle,
the.
I'm telling you, Michelle, there's something going on. Yeah,
This is
I'm
the
sorry, I should have
weirdest
turned up the
shit that I've
juju.
ever had
Michelle,
happen.
she did it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but
It's my fault.
I have
no, yeah,
goosebumps every
uh,
place trying to figure this out.
yeah,
Oh,
It's
Michelle, this
crazy,
is
isn't
crazy.
it?
This
yeah.
is
I think this is
wild.
the show. I think this is the fun part.
But regardless of the fact, hey Michelle, even like I said, even still, even if like nothing ever comes this, I would love to come down and like hang out with you and just kind of like at least
Absolutely.
just I really would love to experience it. You know what I mean? And especially even just being able to go to like just not really to sacred spots, but
Even if we did our live podcast, if we did the
yeah,
podcast or went live down
just
there on
being
the
able to go and do
podcast.
that, like and especially on the grounds and whatnot.
Right,
Like
right.
my father, yeah, like I said, my grandfather was an archaeologist. He specialized in Native American like
Uh-huh.
settlements and whatnot, and so my father kind of carried on that tradition. So it would just be really, really special just kind of go out there and like just enjoy whatever you guys have. You know what I mean? That'd be cool.
Sure, sure. Would
Bobby,
love
you're
to have you
sideways
there. I
on us.
take you up to some premier sites around that have that
Yeah,
activity. I take certain people out there, and
yeah,
you know, Bruce, our other friend Bruce,
yeah,
uh, has experienced some of this stuff with me,
yeah.
and
Yeah, and
uh,
and I invited him on tonight, but I didn't get a response back or anything.
oh, he might be busy or something.
He's busy. Yeah, I mean,
You
get
know
ready for
what? If
tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. But what was really interesting when the ship showed up, there was a huge ship, and then there was two smaller ones that came. Um, they flew right to us, and they hovered above us. I would say about a mile. And
Yeah,
one of the participants that was with us, all of a sudden said, "They're talking to me." We're like, "What?" Yeah, they're speaking to me through my mind, and they were very open. We were all calm. There was no fright, anything to be frightened of. And I go, well, what is it? What are they saying? They said they want to come land, but there's too much radiation, and that they would start an interstellar war. Well, I
oh,
didn't
wow.
understand what they were talking about, and so I said, well, we'd love to have them come land, and they said, no, 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 no. Will you just tell them that we're friendly, that we want this
Hmm.
encounter? And they wouldn't. So we asked him. So the gentleman asked him, "Could you please come a little closer?" And they did. And it was distinctive. Again, we didn't have cameras to capture photos.
Yeah,
And I have captured photos up in the Uinta Basin on other occasion, other experiences. But this is particularly the first time that I had these experiences.
yeah,
Uh, as poignant as it was, and I just have so many stories of contact. I wouldn't say of the third kind, but interactions
You
from
know,
being a
every
ship.
every guest we've had, Michelle, that's
Yeah.
that's spoke with an extra. Every one of them have said the same thing though. It's all been basically like telepathically or
Yes,
inside their head, like a conscious almost. Literally
it
yeah.
every
is.
single person that's had an encounter that we've spoke to have all said the exact same thing.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah. So
I've
we
had
actually,
encounters too.
well, there's something actually like we're gonna try and get on here pretty soon. But he was in naval warfare, so he was in a submarine, and they tracked a UAP underneath the water for quite some time before they lost it. So, I mean, it's just so. I mean, it can't just all. Everyone can't be just imagining something. It has to be. There has to be something, right? Like there has to be like a some sign, or I wish that they would be like more open and like push us towards one direction. You know what I mean, or like whatnot. But I've heard there's up to like 70 different species that's visiting like Earth,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so I guess I would just say I wish kind of one would take the lead and just say like, hey, we're here, like we want to help you. You know what I mean? So I guess that would be the one question I would ask if we ever had an encounter. I was like, why aren't you guys like coming? Like at least to, like just make yourself known. You know what I mean? Because that would be like, oh, turn the world around 180 degrees.
Hell, I want to know what they eat.
Yeah, that too. That too.
They
What
got
music?
that.
What do you
Yeah, what
guys
music do they listen to? You know what I mean?
what do you
They
Yeah, I
guys
better
think
not
want
say.
about
They better not say Beyonce, because I'll get really upset.
what do you guys think about Mexico with the two alien bodies they supposedly found?
No, no. Actually, so that's fake. Like down in Mexico.
Yeah, because they did like
Yeah, yeah. They
MRIs
said
and
it was
stuff
like the
like that
back
on
of a
them, right?
llama. What was it? It was like it was some animal that used the back of a llama, I do believe, the skull and whatnot, and then they kind of just altered it. Yeah, so I wish, like I said, hey, so we have, like I said, Michelle, that one buddy of ours, he is doing the aerospace defense for basically for China. You know, making sure, like, basically guessing what they're going to be able to be physically capable of doing in the future. And he was telling me, like I said, like that before Halloween, they are coming out with something that involves aliens, and then it's going to be kind of drip fed to us for the next year afterwards. But there's something major is supposed to be happening soon.
I hate election year, man, dude. Every
I
year,
do
every
too. Yeah,
time,
I know. I do
like
too.
we had. We had the murder hornets. I mean, dude. I mean, like they got something new every year. They had them sea bass one year.
Yeah.
Uh, aliens.
Oh, what else? Yeah, yeah. What else happened? Yeah. Like,
So, so Michelle, I mean, do you experience more when you're in the basin or
Oh,
like when you're down in
definitely.
Four Corners or
It's well, because of where I've been spending my time, it's been more the basin, and then there is a reservation up there that has. I have done so many interviews with Native Americans, with people who lived there in the community of Roosevelt Ballard area, where most of the sightings. There's a particular area called Blind Frog Ranch. I know Dwayne Ollinger very well, and he just loves the fact that I can bring people up there to explore his lands because there's been many, many interesting things that we've observed up there. And it's the whole area. It's just not concentrated in the triangle, is what these scientists are now saying. There's a concentrated triangles,
right?
so I guess
particular
like
triangle within the Uinta Basin, and a lot of
do you guys
phenomena. Go ahead. Is that Bobby?
no 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 yeah. So I'm just wondering like do you guys have anything special about the basin? Like, is there a mineral? Have you guys done like like drilling wise? Is there anything out of ordinary at the basin?
There's some rare metals up there. I'm sure that what was that one called? Particularly, I can't think of it, but yes, there's only a mineral there that exists up in that area,
Okay.
and it's mined for the. I think it's for the oil industry that they use this particular mineral, and I'm sure
Okay.
there's other rare minerals.
Well,
I know a lot of gold. The gold stories are prevalent by the
yeah,
dozen up in the
yeah.
Uinta Basin, in the mountains, especially up there in the
Mhm.
Wasatch Basin
It,
area. Yeah.
Yeah.
and which reservation is it? A Ute reservation that's down there?
Yes, the northern and southern Utes
Okay,
and the
is that
Ouray
part of
Indian,
the? Are they? I was going to say, are they part of that? What is it? Ashley White Rocks Quarry Indian
the White Rock,
Reservation? Is that part of it or not?
the White Rocks area. Is that what you're talking about? The canyon
Yeah,
up
yeah. Is
there?
that all part of the
Okay.
same reservation?
Yes, they are the same
Okay,
natives up there.
all right.
Yeah, that would be the northern Utes. Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, let me ask you
that's
something,
they're down
Michelle.
in Colorado. What's
Let me
that?
ask you this: you ever been to the Grand Canyon and seen
Yeah.
anything, or
No, I've never been to the Grand Canyon. I've been to Canyon de Chelly. I used to be a
I've seen
reporter
quite
at
a
one
bit of
time.
stuff talking about the Grand Canyon and how much stuff it's supposedly supposed to hold and all that, and I was just super curious if maybe you was able to get down in there or not.
Well, you're talking about that civilization they found down there that has to go back to Egypt times. There was a ancient culture. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah. I was
Egyptian
super
mines.
curious.
Yeah, they have that. Yeah,
Well, it's one of the things I believe like so much is that essentially like I really truly believe like the mark for human development it goes back a lot longer than what we perceive. You know what I
ancient.
mean? Uh,
Yeah, there
just
has
in
been
case.
some.
Go ahead, Michelle. Go ahead. Go
That's
ahead.
your. I was going to say there has been some exploratory Aztecan remnants there up in the Uinta Basin.
Really?
The U Indians, yeah, the U Indians feel like that's their ancestral lineage, part of the Aztecan.
Well, yeah. Well, so the Aztec, because like kind of brief everybody, like their civilization just crumbled in like a couple of years. It was just gone, right?
I think it was water, man. Like from my understanding, is
Drought.
like they droughted and they had to move towards water.
Yeah, but they just left, right? And so like yeah, so yeah, obviously they would have dispersed like going north. You know what I mean, and through Mexico and go up into the United States. But that's just amazing. I really kind of get like to think about it.
What's really interesting is some people have done their investigations, and in conversations I've been with is it Did the Aztecs come up there because there was a lot of raiding going on too at that particular time with the conquistadors
Hmm.
coming up here? Was the gold already here and they were transporting it back to South America where they were from
Yeah.
instead of the other way around? I've heard
Yeah.
those particulars from people who have done archaeological work here that maybe they were actually coming here and taking the gold back to their homelands.
I wouldn't doubt it. To tell you the truth, I know. Like so,
It was
just
already
like
here.
so on the Oregon coast, they found like old ships
Mhm.
that were from like from Japan. You know what I mean, that predate Columbus and anything like that,
Yes,
whatnot. Like they have
yes.
like if you like the DNA, like 23andMe or whatnot, a lot of Native Americans have Asian descent in them because they were coming
Mm-hmm.
over.
I've heard that
Yeah,
too. Yeah,
yep,
yeah. There are a lot of there's a lot of things that we don't know and we're not clear about. And with today's technologies, I think we're revealing a lot more from
yeah.
Man, could
archaeological.
you imagine riding a damn boat from Asia across the Pacific?
No,
Like,
no,
we're talking about a wooden boat at that.
no. And we're talking weeks, bro. Like
No,
weeks.
not weeks. They rode for probably a year plus.
No,
Because
no,
they
no,
go,
no. That was probably like to get there, but no, like it took. I think it was something like I can't remember. Christopher Columbus, like they were. I think it was like 40 days that they from when they set sail and when they hit like the coast. But I think Christopher Columbus at one point in time he thought it was like the East Indies. You know what I mean? Like he thought he was like in Asia and whatnot. But yeah, either way, whatever. But
Yeah, we can go
yeah,
back into history. Yeah,
yeah,
but new archaeological findings are finding that at one time the Great Lakes were part of the Great Flood, and that
yeah,
mariners, Phoenician mariners, are now they're finding their relics. They're Moors that we're finding.
yeah,
Archaeologically speaking, there was a lot of migration that occurred from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean,
yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
Middle
hey,
East and the Phoenicians and so on and so forth. There's archaeological evidence that that's coming forward right now too,
Yeah,
and
I know.
so
Just
it's really interesting how culture gets here, and I think there's going to be some things rewritten about our history, anciently
me too.
speaking. They're finding societies that are over 20,000 years old.
Mhm.
That came from France over here,
Yep. Yeah, well, not
so
that like
it's really
they have
interesting.
that are coming from Norway. You know what I mean? Because like
Mhm.
the Vikings and whatnot, they were able to just travel vast distances over large bodies of water, and they would go up to Greenland, Iceland, and then come back over, and they go through Nova Scotia and come back down to the United States. But yeah, it's amazing what like our ancestors were able to do and whatnot. But it's also kind of like just crazy. I just wish that we could have had like at least one of the encounters. You know what I mean? Like, because I imagine that like aliens would be far more like apt to come back, like a couple hundred years ago, before cameras, before all this stuff, and be able to talk with like what I mean, like introduce themselves. You know what I mean? Because like in the Native American, like in the folklore and whatnot, like have they actually had where aliens came down and talked with the tribes?
Yeah, it's really depicted in a lot of the hieroglyphics and the petroglyphs. Excuse me, the hieroglyphics are in Egypt. The petroglyphs
Yeah.
are here on this side of the island.
Mm.
Um, it depicts some of these kind of interesting. Some archaeologists would say, would say basically those were the gods
Yeah.
of their
okay,
religions and
let me.
so
So,
forth.
just because I don't know a lot about this, I'm just
Okay.
asking, what's up with the crystal skulls and Indiana Jones? You know what I
Oh
mean? You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like, I've.
Peruvian. That's Peruvian
Okay, that's
folklore, right?
Peruvian. Okay.
Yeah, the
yeah.
skulls were part of the South American Peruvian
For some reason,
Indians,
I
and they
thought that
had
was
their
like
own
Central
shamans.
America. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they. I bet you that there's supposed to be multiple ones. You know what I mean? Like they found ones. Like if I remember correctly, the it had to have been tooled by a machine, and then they have like the carbon dating was like way older than what the tools would be able to do so. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but yeah.
Right.
But there's supposed to be like 11 skulls out there, 10 skulls, 11.
Yeah, yeah. I think
So
sometimes like to imagine through our cinema, our theaters, our, film, that this is
Mhm.
like really how it is. But a lot of times that's fictionalized archaeology.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
And
I
then
just
and then and then you go up to the Uinta Basin and you start experience things, and those are not fictionalized.
Yeah,
Right.
you know,
nothing at all. Like, you're just like, oh my gosh.
right?
So
The energy.
Michelle,
Oh, yeah. Michelle, I want to come up there so
Yes,
bad.
yeah,
Gary.
I'm down, man. I would totally come.
I
I'm
would, yeah,
a hundred
like I
percent
said,
in.
I would love it. Like, yeah, go out the sleeping bag out in the middle of, like, yeah, I would love it.
Yes.
so here's something that I'm going to ask Michelle. I know the story, but it
Right.
happened, if I'm not mistaken, in the basin, kind of by Blind Frog, where you and Bruce lost time.
Yes, I got a call from Bruce, and he just says, "I." This was like in the dead of winter, about January time. It was cold, and he goes, "I'm just feeling like I need to go up to Blind Frog Ranch. I have to unload some personal things." And he knew it was an area that had positive energy. And I said, "Yeah, I'll go up there." And he goes, "Do you mind if I bring a couple of people with me, a couple of friends?" And we did, and we were going to initially take his big truck into up into the area of eastern Uintas there, and we got his truck stuck in the mud. You talk about putting barriers in front of us, like kind of like tonight's call when we start talking about certain things.
Yeah.
Um, these wheels, it would have gone through any terrain, to be honest, and they got stuck in the mud. These huge wheels, I mean, on Bruce's truck, they were huge,
Hmm.
and we had to have a tractor pull us out. And
Yeah.
for some reason, we were just determined to go take that hike up near a Blind Frog Ranch on the other side of the mountain. And so we made our way. And Bruce has some past injuries from his career in baseball. He had hurt his back and such, and he always had constant pain. And do you know, when we were taking the hike, he never complained. He never complained. In fact, the walk did him good in the sense that he had no pain
Yeah.
going up and down. And usually the hike would have taken us, on a normal day, what, 2 or 3 hours. And we got up there, I think about the 1 o'clock time. We finally made it up there in snow up to our hips. So we
Yeah.
were trekking through this, and we were having fun doing it. And there was like 4 or 5 of us doing this. And as we were coming back, we noticed, we're like, it should be getting dark, and it wasn't getting dark. And we somehow made it back by 3:30, 4ish time. And we thought we should have been back by 7.
Yeah.
So we actually, gained time. And
It
Bruce tells
wasn't.
that story of
It wasn't elite. It
time
wasn't.
time
Daylight
traveling or
savings. None
something.
of that.
What's that, Bobby?
I said it wasn't like daylight savings or any of that. Like,
No. Uh-uh.
okay.
No.
I gotta hit. I gotta hit every angle on you, Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a bright sunny day, and then we ended up going to dinner, and we were down in we went down to Vernal, Utah, went to dinner. By the time it was like 5 o'clock, and we weren't even exhausted. That was the other weird, interesting thing. I had a few snacks in the car that kind of, you know, that we needed just after that little hike, but it was a pretty treacherous hike, and it should have taken us 5 to 6 hours, and we only made it. We did it within 3 hours.
That's weird.
That's
That's crazy.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's Bruce's story he tells
Yeah.
about gaining time. Time traveling is what he called it.
Yeah. All the time. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell another story about that same area.
Yeah.
About 2.5 years ago, I was given the privilege to go up there and shoot an episode for a show called Uncharted Adventures, which features
Yeah.
on the Weather Channel. And this production crew, there was like 14 of us, and it was one late night. We were, after we had shot and ate around the campfire. Some of the crew went down with their cameras to the gate by Mosby's Creek,
Yeah.
and it had been a cloudy day most of the day. And then, what was really remarkable is myself and the producer just stayed back. It was a woman producer, and so we were talking around the campfire. And I noticed that the sky had split in two, in the sense half the clouds were there, and then the rest of it were the stars, and the stars started to move in all kinds of directions.
Yeah.
And so we started to notice that there were things moving back and forth. They were, and today the term is called tic tac, and a tic tac formation.
Yeah.
You know, that's a scientific term that, aircraft doesn't work like that. And
Yeah.
so I said, I bet you it's, I think we're having an ET encounter, guys, and pull out your cameras and start shooting those aircraft, because I'm going to show
Yeah.
you what's next. And all of a sudden the crew comes running down with their heavy equipment and cameras, the young men, and they're like, Michelle, you're never going to believe what we've caught. And they've caught all kinds of aircraft.
Yeah.
Um, and I said, yeah, let's. And it was like 4 a.m. Everybody was tired, and I said, let's just discuss this tomorrow, and we'll look at your videos or your camera pictures or whatever tomorrow. And so we had a nice RV, and I went in, and one of the cameramen and my son was one of the drivers, and we all had our own little beds, and we all went to bed. And all of a sudden, the RV started to shake back and forth, like it was like a
Yeah.
little bit of an earthquake. And the
Yeah.
producer and her husband were sleeping in the back bedroom, and they come running out and they go, something is walking and tapping our windows.
Hmm.
And you're like, oh my goodness. And you could hear something crawling on top of the luxury RV.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm about half asleep, and I see the door open, and there's an entity of a reptilian formation right there. And I looked up, and it ran out and about hit me because of where I was laying. The door about slammed on my head.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the gentleman who was our drone, a cameraman, wakes up and he goes, something's talking to me. And he starts to get, because this is his first encounter, he starts to get scared.
Yeah.
He goes, help me. And he went really quiet. And apparently he was having that telepathy moment with this entity.
Yeah. So how many species do you believe is out there?
Well, I've heard accounts about 64. I was
64?
friends with, yeah, Sergeant Stone, Clifford Stone. We have
Yeah.
talked on the phone before his death several times, and he identified something like 64 to 69 species. I mean, it's
Yeah.
public knowledge that he talks about that.
So we
But
were up. So we were filming up in Oregon, right? And it was for the
right,
show Gold. And some old guy was sitting at a bar, and he was reading, and essentially it would be the Wall Street Journal for like in Mandarin, right? And then
okay,
so very very puzzling. We're like, okay, but over the course of like getting to know the guy, he essentially said that he was in the Air Force for about 10 years, and then but then he became like the Men in Black. Yeah, I mean, and the guy, and I wish I would have written down his name. I took like, but he's a published author, a very successful author, and he's done a number of other things. But he was talking about like as far as the Men in Black, like alien visitation. He's like it happens all the time, and he's like it's gonna come out here pretty soon. And that was just right before the Tic Tac videos and everything like that came out, like with Commander Graver,
Greer?
yeah,
Is it Greer?
Greer. There you go, yeah, yeah. It's
Stephen
yeah, I
Greer.
can't. Yeah. So, Commander, like the one guy, he caught like the
Oh,
Tic Tac.
okay.
Yeah. So, but even still, that's what I always say. It's like, man, like I feel like it's getting so close. You know what I mean? Like that there's gonna
Getting
be.
in contact with entities and species and different things. Well,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. In having to finish that story about that filming gig, the next morning, um, one of the cameramen, the one that was having contact with the whatever it was speaking to him, He was very disturbed the next morning, and I had to work him through some things.
Really?
This being his first encounter, he had the most prolific photos, and he had caught a spaceship. And I said, "Well, take your finger and spread. You know how you enlarge with your finger
Yeah.
on the screen? There it was. We had a camera. We had an entity on the camera, and now
That's
it's being analyzed. And some of the things that are coming back on that analyzation of that photo, they're piecemealing it, and I should be getting the results back. I've got one.
so was our friend Paul the one that you were talking about as far as like before Halloween?
Paul.
Yeah, so our friend Paul, like he's the one who does like the NASA, like the
Hmm.
aerospace. Like, are you the one
Yeah,
that he was talking about?
I don't think so. I don't think
Okay.
so. I don't think so.
Hey, Michelle,
Yeah,
do you
yeah, Bobby.
know? Have you ever talked? Do you know Stephen Greer?
I know of Mr. Greer. I've got to
Okay, I
keep
didn't know
that
if you'd
little
ever spoke to him or
conversation
not.
private.
I just know I was just. Our reason is like I just I've read some of his stuff or whatnot, and you know he. I was wondering if maybe if you ever had talked to him, like if you could like touch on like how serious you feel about him or whatnot. But he's like one of the only people you don't really see anybody calling a quack. You know.
Well, you
So
know what? There are people who do like Steven and there's people who don't. But here's the thing. Steven's whole thing is about disclosure. He wants to disclose that these things are real. And that I think right now with his press conference that came out earlier is that he's trying to unveil some of the crimes against humanity, some of the ops programs the military has done to
Mm-hmm.
humanity, and it's going before the congressional hearings right now to determine certain bills being passed to help protect some of these people who've worked in the space industry to protect their lives and not put them in this situation if they saw something or they witnessed something that they're not hurt in the
right,
future, that
like
they're
give them a little bit
respected.
of maybe give them
Yes, and
some people some protection, and maybe some others will come forward with.
yes, a
Oh yeah,
lot
no,
of people.
yeah.
I've known people, whistleblowers, who have lost their jobs, been threatened, who whose lives were attempted, who have lost incomes. I mean, I know some of those people, but they were in the aerotech space industry, and it does happen. And this is what I think the Senate hearings are trying to do right now, is just protect these people from any further damage in their lives because they don't want to see this stuff. They, like myself, I saw a lot of stuff. I've had some physical harm, I've had some emotional stuff. You just have to deal with certain things, and when you go talk to people, they kind of look at you as like, are you crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And that
I
you
wish
have
that
these
like you could talk to 9 out of 10 people, and they have no idea there was any Senate hearings or anything about it. Like you know,
I was on like
you can hush hush right now.
yeah, I even
it's
knew
just.
before.
But still, like I'm gonna be honest with you. If I didn't scroll through it on TikTok, I'd have never known about it. It's just not.
Well, so like like Dr. Greer, like he was actually talking about it. He was like basically saying like, something's about to happen, and they had been planning this for I don't know how long. Not to mention, if you look at his people that are surrounding him, it's unbelievable, unbelievable. Well, the amount of people that he has, that the jobs that they had prior to coming to work for, or at least like work around him, and it's something that you're just like, wow, oh my god, like
God,
how can this
I've
guy? Yeah,
I've got to ask you guys. I mean, I'm going crazy over here when we speak about crazy. Are you guys not hearing like the chatter
Yeah,
interference
yeah, I get it all the
when
time.
we
I've
are
been getting it.
talking about UAPs and
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I
aliens?
get
So
every time we get to talking about it, I get the chatter.
yeah,
I
they get
mean,
the like
with
little
my
blips.
headphones, it's like a second voice in my freaking head over here.
Yeah,
And it's like no,
Wow.
it's not any words. It's this like clicking, and it just when you
Unless you're
start
being
talking, and I'm
listened
getting
into,
goose.
I know. Hey, hey. Well,
you
ask
might be
it.
listening to.
So every time, so every time you hear it, like put a dot. So maybe it's Morse code, maybe it's something else, maybe it
There
like
you go.
just if you
but
could,
that's
if you could
it.
find,
It's not like just going. It's like
Yeah,
it's
I
like
get a, I get
it,
a, bup, 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 bup.
but it's like higher or lower pitched, and then it'll stop, and then it'll wait a few seconds, and then it's like,
well, so hey,
and it's
so
like
like I said,
what?
hey, like I said, like do the taps and see if there's like a repetitive message,
Yeah, and
or
I got the goosebumps over here because while you guys are talking, I am hearing this loud and clear. And I am looking at your guys' microphones. I'm looking at everything, trying to figure out what the hell this is. But it's
is
only when we're mentioning that.
so let me
You
say,
know, it's
so UFOs and space aliens come down. No, good, didn't happen.
no. I mean, I don't know. It's weird. We've got a little chat box going on, and I message on there. Can you guys not hear the interference, or I'm hearing all this
I hear it
interference?
on
I'm not
Bobby's
hearing
side.
anything. It's so clear
I'll-
here.
I will test
Yeah.
it real quick. Watch this. Stuart McKenzie hasn't paid his taxes in 10
Oh, you
years.
son of a bitch!
Now they're
Y'all hear-
listening in.
Y'all hear
Right,
it?
everything's gonna go blank all of a sudden.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you this, Michelle. I don't know if you can talk about this or not, but there's a place in New Mexico. I'll try to keep this, that there might have been a Bigfoot incident. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep, you sure are.
Can you talk about that or no?
It's legitimate. I had it analyzed. Uh, because of it's in post production, I can't go into the situation, but we were asked to investigate this particular site, and it's legitimate. There for some particular things I haven't ever seen before that were clear demarcations of territory being marked by these entities. And I call everybody an entity because I don't like the word alien as much, but more that,
Sounds racist, doesn't it?
what's that?
Sounds racist. I
I
like it. I like it.
Well, you
keep
got
going, Michelle, because I'm hearing that again.
because there's a distinction between illegal aliens, that we have coming across
I know.
Mexico,
I'm just giving you a
and then
hard
we're having
time.
to be politically correct as UFO aliens. Maybe we call them UFO aliens,
Well, so like,
but
so are you talking like as far as like, is it like a burial site or is it like just something like?
no, it's somebody's private piece of land, and a fire had ripped through, but there were
Oh,
some markings and indications that
well, I remember there
that
was
this
this fire that had happened. It was in Oregon, and there were people like calling the fire department or like calling police to me like there are Bigfoot running through my goddamn yard right now. You know what I mean? And they were like, no,
yeah.
like legit, like they have them on. You can look them up and whatnot, but yeah, you can hear the audio. Like, there's a goddamn Bigfoot running through my yard. You know what I mean? Like, send
Well,
help.
exactly. You know what? That I'm making a connection. Everything has a correlation here. So when you spot a Bigfoot, a UFO will show up,
Yeah.
or something will show up other than just the one incident. It's all correlated. It's all interconnected. And so I got a call about 3 weeks ago. And remember those fires up in Santa Fe?
Yeah.
New Mexico. Well, the sheriff up there in Santa Fe area, there were more sightings of Bigfoot after this fire had occurred, and they were going to start doing an investigation with the state of New Mexico up there in Santa Fe. And they're taking that pretty serious because there was so many sightings after that fire. I got
I
that
bet.
phone call. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I know.
so
That's what I'm saying. Is like, I don't know.
Something
Like,
we need to investigate, gentlemen.
I know what I would
right.
love to do. Yeah, I
Something
would
that we
love to
can
do like
investigate.
if we got like a
Thank
helicopter,
you.
we'll, like fast rope out of it and go out into the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? And be like, hey, come get us in a. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We could actually move around and brush, like like because they're not going to just be sitting there on the side of the road. Otherwise, we
Right.
have pictures of them. You know what I
Well,
mean? But
I
I
I
got
hate to
it,
say
man.
this. We're hitting our limit. We're hitting our time limit,
oh
guys.
yeah, our time.
We're
Okay.
hitting our
Okay.
time
Talk
limit.
It's
But
already
what
been
I
an hour. Oh my
Yeah, but
god.
what I'd like to do is invite Michelle back. And
Oh, please
Michelle, I
don't.
mean, at that time, if the any of the Rangers would like to come on with you, but I'd
Okay.
love to discuss more as things become prevalent and you can talk about.
Okay.
But we'd love to have you back
Absolutely.
on when you have time. You know. So
I just
with
felt
that
like we just
said,
scratched. Yeah.
No,
yeah,
we just
we
scratched the
scraped the
surface.
surface and
Yeah.
really didn't get a deep dive into stuff, but
No, we
it's been
didn't.
so
We
weird
didn't.
tonight with
Oh,
everything going on as well. So let's close this out. Everybody that watches and hears us, please, email us at are you out? Are you? I can't even talk with the stuff going on in my headphones. Are you out there? The number one at gmail.com and let us know what you think. And Michelle, again, thanks for coming. And Bobby, I'm sorry about all the experience you were having coming in and out, and
Man,
you know
it would go
it's so
crazy, dude.
weird,
It was
so
every
yeah.
weird
time.
tonight.
But hey,
So
Michelle, thank you so very much. Like you cannot, I cannot express to you how much. Like, and we really, 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 really want you to come back and tell us some
Thank
like
you.
even more in
Appreciate
depth
that.
stories. Like you have no idea.
a- absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. All right,
It's been
well
fun.
we're gonna stop here, and everybody have a good night, and we'll talk to you here soon.
Awesomeness.
Okay, so
Dude, I didn't have nothing but pure hell on my end. Right now. No, man, it's booted me out like completely out like 4 times. I'm channeling the ghost of Burt Reynolds. I would rotate it. I would rotate it. Like Stuart would be like, rotate. I'd rotate it that way, and then Gary would text me, rotate it the other way. Like on my screen. What about that? See, I see myself like when it tells me to look at myself, like I look, it shows me normal. I think, dude, it could have something to do. Like we're having a major storm outside, like lightning and thunder and all kinds of shit going on. Man, I sure hope it ain't got nothing to do with them dinosaur eggs I bought off the black market. Hey, Gary, if you get a chance, look at. No, it was. I'm sorry, Gary. Hey, Gary, when you get a chance, look at what that one I sent you. That guy right there. Um, that guy right there is. He's Anyway, he's former 82nd, and he goes out all the time out in the like Arizona, Utah, New Mexico to all those ghost towns and like the cemeteries and stays out there in the desert in them all the time. And he said he's had some shit that scared him so bad he had to leave the whole desert. I was just saying, if you just want to take a look at it or whatever, if you get a chance, just take a look at it and whatnot. But I know he said when he was at Boot Hill and stayed out there for a few days, he said it was awful. He had to leave like in the middle of the night.